A very good morning to all of you and welcome to the class on anti-leprotic drugs. This session covers the core areas of anti-leprotic drugs required for medical and dental students of the second year. So we shall be covering this topic under the following headings: classification of anti-leprotic drugs, the mechanism of action, pharmacokinetics, adverse drug reactions of the important drugs dapsone and clofazimine in detail. We shall be looking at the treatment regimens followed for the treatment of leprosy. Finally, we shall go through the different types of reactions seen in leprosy and the drugs which are used for the treatment of it. So all of you might be knowing that leprosy is otherwise called as the Hansen's disease. And the disease is named after the scientist who discovered the causative organism of leprosy, Sir Gerhard Armor Hansen. So by now, I guess all of you imagine leprosy as a disease which was considered to be a social stigma. So all of you have seen such visuals either in your textbooks or the newspapers or the television. Okay, this was a concept that we had about leprosy long time back. And it was considered as a disease of poverty and occurred mainly in people who belong to a lower socio-economic strata. However, now, because of the introduction of National Leprosy Eradication Program in 1982, India has achieved elimination of leprosy. That is, the prevalence rate of leprosy is less than 1 per 10,000 population. The golden rule now is that timely diagnosis and the right treatment can cure leprosy. So with that background, we'll proceed to the topic. So it is defined as a chronic granulomatous disease affecting the skin, mucous membrane, and the nerves. The causative organism is Mycobacterium leprae. So by now you would have already studied about the morphology of Mycobacterium leprae in the microbiology classes. So I shall not be covering about those in this class. So as per the Ridley-Joplin classification, leprosy is divided into mainly lepromatous, that is shortened as LL, and the tuberculoid, TT. There are intermediate types, that is borderline lepromatous, borderline, and borderline tuberculoid types of leprosy also. So we shall see the basic difference between the tuberculoid leprosy and the lepromatous leprosy. So in tuberculoid leprosy, you will find that the anesthetic patch, that is the principal presenting feature. Whereas in lepromatous leprosy, you will see diffuse skin and mucous membrane infiltration and multiple nodules. The cell-mediated immunity is normal in tuberculoid leprosy, whereas the cell-mediated immunity is absent in the case of lepromatous leprosy. For the same reason, the lepromin test will be positive in tuberculoid leprosy and will be negative in the case of lepromatous leprosy. In case of tuberculoid leprosy, there will be less bacilli present in the biopsies which are taken from the skin. In the lepromatous leprosy, there will be abundance of bacilli in the biopsy samples. Tuberculoid leprosy is characterized by prolonged remissions with periods of exacerbation. However, lepromatous leprosy has a high tendency of progressing to anesthesia of distal parts, atrophy, ulceration of digits, etc. So the picture that comes to our mind whenever we think about leprosy is usually that of the lepromatous leprosy, because it is associated with all the kinds of gross deformities, ulceration of digits, and the characteristic facies which is called as the leonine facies or the lion-like facies. So this is a picture. Tuberculoid leprosy, it is characterized by an anesthetic patch, whereas you can see in the lepromatous leprosy there is diffuse infiltration of the skin and there is a nodular appearance to the facies, and this facies is called as the leonine facies. Now for the therapeutic purpose, that is for the treatment purpose, leprosy is classified into paucibacillary leprosy, that is PBL, and the multibacillary leprosy, that is MBL. So paucibacillary leprosy, in that the patient has only few bacilli present in the skin biopsy. The patient is non-infectious, and this type of leprosy includes the tuberculoid TT type and the borderline tuberculoid types of leprosy. The multibacillary leprosy, the patient is highly infectious and has a large bacillary load. And this includes the lepromatous leprosy and the other intermediate types, that is the borderline leprosy and the borderline type of leprosy. Now we'll see the classification of anti-leprotic drugs. So under this we have sulfones, example dapsone, phenazine derivative clofazimine. Anti-tubercular drugs which are used also for leprosy treatment are rifampin and ethionamide. Other antibiotics like fluoroquinolones or fluoxetine, tetracycline like minocycline, and a macrolide like the clarithromycin are also used for the treatment of leprosy. So the principal drugs which we have not discussed earlier is dapsone and clofazimine. So we'll be discussing this in detail. The pharmacology of the other drugs you have already discussed in detail in the previous classes. So in this class, we'll be only looking at the elements of these drugs which are applicable to leprosy. We will not be going into the details discussion of the pharmacology of the anti-tubercular drugs and the other antibiotics in this class. So let us have a look at the dapsone. It is a diamino diphenyl sulfone and is shortened as DDS. It is the simplest of the anti-leprotic drugs. It is the oldest one available. It is also the cheapest, the most active and the most common anti-leprotic drug. So what is its mechanism of action? So the mechanism of action is very similar to that of sulfonamides. So we have already seen the pathway of the folic acid synthesis while we were discussing about the sulfonamide. We'll repeat that once again. The PABA is incorporated into dihydrofolic acid by folate synthase, and dihydrofolic acid is converted to tetrahydrofolic acid by the dihydrofolate reductase. You all know that bacteria have to synthesize folic acid. So the dapsone inhibits the incorporation of the PABA into dihydrofolic acid by folate synthesis. This is how the dapsone will be acting. The dapsone is a leprostatic drug. It inhibits other bacteria also, other than Mycobacterium leprae. It inhibits the other bacteria also, but that occurs only at very high concentration. And that high concentration of the drug is not usually used because of the toxicity associated with high doses. Dapsone can have a primary resistance or a secondary resistance against it. Primary resistance is the resistance to dapsone in a person in whom dapsone has not been previously used. Okay, so it is very difficult to use start dapsone in such a person who is primarily resistant to dapsone. Secondary resistance occurs after the use of dapsone for some time. Now, the pharmacokinetics, it is given orally and has got a good oral absorption. It is concentrated in the skin, muscle, liver, and the kidney. It is metabolized in liver by the conjugation reactions, and different types of conjugation reactions are involved. That is conjugation by acetate, glucuronide, and sulfate. The excretion occurs first through the bile, but again it is reabsorbed from the intestine, and finally it is excreted in the urine. The T half is more than 24 hours. So you have to give only once a day dose of dapsone. It is a cumulative drug and has a tendency to be retained in the tissues for a long time. Now we'll see the adverse drug reactions. So it is usually a well-tolerated drug at doses 100 milligram per day or less. This is the usual dose which is included in the treatment regimens of leprosy. The symptoms which can, the areas which can be there at the beginning are GI symptoms like nausea, anorexia, and vomiting. These are only present in the beginning and later on they disappear. Hemolytic anemia is usually dose related and is seen in particularly in patients who are G6PD deficient. Allergic reactions like rashes, phototoxicity, exfoliative dermatitis, fixed drug eruption can occasionally occur. And others like methemoglobinemia, hepatitis, and agranulocytosis are also rarely seen. Sulfone syndrome is a syndrome which occurs 4 to 6 weeks after the start of dapsone treatment. And it is mainly seen in malnourished patients, and it includes symptoms like fever, malaise, lymph node enlargement, desquamation of the skin, jaundice, and anemia. The treatment for the sulfone syndrome is to stop the dapsone temporarily, give steroids and the other supportive measures to overcome fever and malaise. Dapsone is contraindicated in patients with severe anemia, that is hemoglobin less than 7 gram per deciliter, in G6PD deficiency patients, and in patients who are hypersensitive to the drug. The uses of dapsone include leprosy. They can also be given in chloroquine-resistant malaria in combination with pyrimethamine for the treatment of toxoplasmosis, dermatitis herpetiformis, and also used for the treatment of pneumocystis jirovecii pneumonia in AIDS patients. Next, we shall be moving on to the next drug, that is clofazimine. So clofazimine is a dye, and like dapsone, it is also a leprostatic drug. It has got some additional anti-inflammatory actions also. The mechanism of action is clofazimine is not clearly understood. It is supposed to be interfering with the template function of DNA in Mycobacterium leprae bacteria. Alteration of bacterial cell membrane structure as well as the transport mechanisms associated is also altered. Disruption of mitochondrial electron transport chain can also be occurring in case of use of clofazimine. So these are the possible 3 mechanisms of actions of clofazimine. It is also an orally active drug, and highly it is accumulated in macrophages and in fat. It has got a poor CSF entry. It has got a very, very long T-half, that is about 70 days. So intermittent therapy with clofazimine is also possible because of the long T-half. It is usually a well-tolerated drug, but the adverse effects that can occur are the reddish-black discoloration of the skin, the conjunctiva, the hair, and the body secretion. So you can see in the picture there is a reddish-black discoloration of the face, and even conjunctiva there can be a reddish discoloration. This usually disappears after the drug is stopped. However, it can cause cosmetic problems. Dryness, itching, and scaling of the skin can also occur. Acneiform eruptions and photosensitivity can also occur with the use of clofazimine. The GI symptoms associated are nausea, anorexia, abdominal pain, loose stools, and the resultant weight loss. And this can be minimized by taking the drug along with the meals. And this is usually because of the irritant effects of the drug as well as because of the deposition of the drug crystals in the intestinal mucosa. Clofazimine is used as a component of multi-drug therapy only. It is not used alone, as alone it is not efficient enough. It can also be used for lepra reactions because of its anti-inflammatory actions. It is contraindicated in pregnancy, liver disease, and in kidney disease. Now we shall look into the other drugs, that is rifampin. It is the most potent cidal drug for Mycobacterium leprae. Dapsone and clofazimine were leprostatic. This is a cidal drug for Mycobacterium leprae. It rapidly renders the patient non-contagious by killing about 99.9% bacteria in the first week itself. It provides rapid clinical improvement, that is, nasal symptoms will start decreasing by 2 to 3 weeks. The skin lesions will start improving by 2 months. However, the nerve damage which has already occurred is not benefited with the treatment of rifampicin. It is used as a component of multi-drug therapy, and it has the following advantages. It shortens the duration of treatment, it prevents the development of resistance, and it is effective in once a month dose also. Because of this, it is a very important part of the multi-drug therapy. The other uses of rifampicin as in tuberculosis and tuberculosis is already discussed in the previous chapter. The dose of the drug is 600 milligram per month. It is contraindicated in liver and the kidney disease. The other antitubercular drug, that is ethionamide, has got significant anti-leprotic activity, but it is expensive, it is hepatotoxic, and therefore it is used only if it is absolutely necessary. The other antibiotics that can be used in the alternative regimens of multi-drug therapy are the fluoroquinolones like ofloxacin, pefloxacin, and moxifloxacin. Of these, the moxifloxacin is considered to have the highest action against the leprosy bacteria. Tetracyclines like minocycline and macrolide like clarithromycin are also used in alternative regimens of multi-drug therapy. All these drugs have bactericidal action against Mycobacterium leprae, and they are employed only in alternative multi-drug therapy regimens where rifampicin cannot be used. In the standard multi-drug regimens that you're going to see, you'll be seeing rifampicin is a principal drug that is used. Now we look into the treatment of leprosy. So, it was a conventional therapy that was initially used, and this included a monotherapy with dapsone. But the conventional therapy had various disadvantages. It had to be given for a very long time. It only produced symptomatic relief. There was no bacterial cure in some patients, and the biggest problem was that they developed resistance. This therapy, that is a conventional therapy with monotherapy of dapsone, is not used now. So what do we use now? We use the multi-drug therapy. The multi-drug therapy has the following advantage. It is effective in primary dapsone resistance. It prevents the emergence of further resistance. It provides quick symptomatic relief. It renders the multibacillary leprosy cases non-contagious very fast. It prevents the progression and the complications of the disease. It decreases the total duration of therapy. It decreases the chance of relapse, and also the same therapy can be used for patients who relapse. Unlike the tuberculosis, this is the difference here. The patients who relapse can also be given the same multi-drug therapy. So the standard regimen that is followed for paucibacillary leprosy is as follows. Dapsone 100 milligram daily, self-administered by the patient. Rifampicin 600 milligram once a month, supervised. This has to be given for 6 months. Then for multibacillary leprosy, as the bacillary load is high enough, dapsone 100 milligram daily, self-administered, just like the previous one. Rifampin 600 milligram once a month, supervised, just like the previous one. Here we have got the addition of clofazimine 300 milligram once a month, supervised, plus 50 milligram daily, self-administered for 12 months. This is the adult dosage. In children, the dose of rifampin is 10 milligram per kilogram. Then dapsone, the dose is 2 milligram per kilogram. Clofazimine 1 milligram per kilogram daily dose and 6 milligram per kilogram once monthly dose. This is a sample showing how it is practically done. You can see for a case of paucibacillary leprosy in adult, treatment for 6 months at the clinic once a month on the day 1, supervised treatment with 2 capsules of rifampin, that is 600 milligram. Each capsule is 300 milligram. 1 tablet of Dapsone, that is 100 milligram. And at home, the patient self-administers from day 2 to day 28, 1 tablet of Dapsone, 100 milligram. The alternative regimens are also available, and as I said earlier, the alternative regimens are used in patients who are either not able to use rifampicin or are intolerant to rifampin. And there are various regimens which include the following drugs, that is fluoroquinolones, macrolide, tetracycline and all. I'm not going into the detail of these because it is beyond the scope of the discussion for this batch. So now we shall look into the reactions in leprosy. There are 2 types of reactions in leprosy. The type 1 reaction is called as a reversal reaction. The type 2 reaction is called as the lepra reaction or the erythema nodosum leprosum, ENL. So what is type 1 reaction? The type 1 reaction or the reversal reaction is a type of type 4 delayed hypersensitivity reaction to the Mycobacterium leprae antigens. This type of reaction is usually seen in tuberculoid type and borderline tuberculoid cases of leprosy. It manifests as cutaneous ulceration, multiple nerve involvement with pain and tenderness, and usually it occurs soon after the treatment completion. That is why it is called as a reversal reaction. It is because it is usually occurring after the treatment completes. The treatment of this reaction is to administer glucocorticoids or clofazimine. Clofazimine and glucocorticoids, they both have got anti-inflammatory action. The next one is type 2 reaction or erythema nodosum leprosum. So type 3 hypersensitivity reaction is seen in lepromatous cases, and it is usually occurring between the treatment or if the patient has an infection. So an infection can always precipitate a reaction like this. It's a type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. So it can be having an abrupt onset, and during this, the existing lesions which are already there, they become enlarged, they become red, swollen and very painful. Even new lesions can appear. The patient will have malaise, fever and other constitutional symptoms. You can see here in the figure, you can see very red swollen lesions present on the chest. And this erythema, this type 2 reaction can be mild to severe forms. And the severe forms are addressed as the erythema nodosum leprosum. The treatment includes the symptomatic management with antipyretics, analgesics, and because an infection usually precipitates this reaction, antibiotics are also advocated. Clofazimine is a drug of choice. It has to be administered 200 milligram per day because of its anti-inflammatory action. For severe cases, we have to administer a steroid, that is prednisolone, 40 to 60 milligram per day till reaction is controlled. Then taper the dose slowly over 8 to 12 weeks. Temporary discontinuation of Dapsone can be done in patients who are having severe reactions. As alternatives to the steroid, chloroquine and thalidomide can also be used for the treatment of erythema nodosum leprosum. So we'll revise we'll just list the important questions under this topic. Classify drugs for leprosy, Dapsone, clofazimine as a short note, multi-drug therapy for leprosy, drugs for the reactions that are seen in leprosy. So I'll conclude with the tagline that leprosy can be cured. Do not fear it, but treat it. Thank you.